Okay, this is part 4 of Unit 4C. Again, this is a 2-day lesson, so that's why we have such a substantial length. Now, we're just got done talking about how you find the current yield of a bond, and that is the annual interest payment divided by the current bond price. So we're going to now compute the current yield on each of the following bonds. So you have $1,000 U.S. Treasury bond with a coupon rate of 5.5%, and its current market value is $1,100, and we want to find the current yield. So the first thing that we've got to do here is we have got to find out how much they're paying us in annual interest. So initially they promised us that they would pay us at a 0.055 or 5.5% rate, and they pay us that on the $1,000. So that's our simple interest right there. So this is the annual interest payment. So it's the coupon rate times what you purchased it for, and then we're going to divide that by the current value of $1,100. Okay, so when I take 0.055 times 1,000, then divide it by $1,100, that gives me a current yield of 0.05 or 5% is what its current yield is, based off of how things are going in the market right now. So that's how you would find the current yield on your bond. Now, the next one is we're going to be looking at how to find the bond interest. And a lot of times they'll talk about bonds, they'll say something like points. When we're looking at points, that's just another way of saying percent. So 114.3 points, it's like 114.3% means we're gaining on this. And so we have, in this case, we want to compute the annual interest. Okay, the way we're going to find the annual interest here, annual interest is going to be the current yield. So you'll probably want to definitely write this down. I just said probably and definitely in the same sentence, but you want to write this down. So it's the current yield times the current price. And that's going to give you your annual interest rate on your bonds. So our current yield, it gives us right here, is 6.2%. So as a decimal, 0.062. Okay, and then we want to times that by our current price. And to find our current price, we're going to take the $1,000 and times it by its quote at 114.3 points, or in other words, 1.143, because again, that 114.3, just think of that as a percentage. Okay, and when you multiply this out, you'll get about $70.87. So there's your annual interest on this bond when you have the current yield and you know what it is quoted at that time. So that's just a basic look at bonds. You can read more in your textbook about bonds if you would like, but those are just some of the basic calculations that are done when we are trying to find out different information about bonds. Okay, the last investment we're going to look at today are mutual funds. Okay, and this is again, there is much more information in your textbook. I'll refer you to that, as the calculations that we will be doing here will be relatively simple. We're just going to get a basic idea here. So when you buy shares in a mutual fund, a fund manager takes care of the day-to-day decisions. So you're paying someone to take care of those day-to-day decisions about when to sell, when to buy individual stocks or bonds in that fund. So when we're comparing mutual funds, the most important factor are the fees for investing and how well the funds perform. And you don't want to have someone who's charging you a 50% fee, so they're going to take half your profits. or even more than that, actually, not just on your profit. So you got to be careful in that first. So this figure 4.7 is going to show a sample mutual fund quote. In this case, Vanguard fund that is designed to track the S&P 500 stock index. Now, the S&P 500 is just a collection of stocks, and you can check that out. It's on so many different websites. A lot of people follow that. And so the quote here makes it easy to see the past performance of the fund, which you can compare then to other funds. And of course, every mutual fund, the past performance does not guarantee the future results. So just because something did well or poor in the past does not mean it's going to do well or poor in the future. It just gives you an idea. Now, most of these tables that we're going to be looking at do not show the fees charged. For that, you have to call or check with the company, and fees are usually automatically withdrawn from your account, and so there's a potential they can have a big impact on your long-term gains. You know, for example, if you invest $1,000 in a fund that charges a 5% annual fee, then you've only actually invested $950. And so over a lot of years, that can significantly reduce your total. So it is something you want to be cognitively aware of when you get into a mutual fund. And again, mutual funds are going to be looking at combinations, stocks and bonds and different items. And you can read more about them. Okay, so here's just a little bit about this. Again, we're not going to be looking a ton into what all of these mean. Okay, NAV, the net asset value, is essentially the share price, if we want to think of it that way, or the current value in dollars of each share in this fund. Okay, we've got the fund name and symbol. Okay, we've got the year-to-date % return based off of January 1, and then we've got annual returns. And this is where we're going to look more the average annual returns on the fund's shares for a period of time that's indicated, so you can see how this thing performs. So over a year, 17%; over a 3-year period, 10%; over 5-year, 13%; over 10 years, 7%. So you can get an idea as to how this thing performs in the long term, or how it has historically performed. And so we're going to be looking a lot into those annual returns, and then the net asset value, or the share price. Another way to think of that. So again, there's much more you can read about mutual funds, but we're going to be relatively basic in what we do in this video. So we've got Vanguard Long-Term Bond Index. Here is its symbol. And we've got some questions here. So A, suppose you invest $2,500 in this fund today. How many shares will you buy? So in part A, if you invest $2,500, then we need to take that $2,500 and divide it by the current price. And again, your current price, if you remember up there, was the net asset value, NAV. So we'll divide that by 1393. And this will tell us that you were able to buy 179.47 shares of this mutual fund for $2,500. So that's how much you would buy in if you had that kind of money. Okay, next, suppose you had invested $2,500 in this fund 5 years ago. How much would it be worth now? So our 5-year rate is 3.9%, is the annual return. So we're going to be calculating this just like compound interest, and our amount is going to be, what we initially invested times 1 plus the rate, which was 3.9, so 3.98 annually. So these are always going to be over 1, and then to the 1 times the number of years, and this is over a 5-year period of time. So in 5 years, if I multiply all of that out, I get $3,038.71, and that's what your investment will be worth 5 years later based off of historical data. Okay, we can look to suppose that you had invested $2,500 and it was 10 years ago. So how much would it be worth now? So now we're going to look at the 10-year rate or return. So that has a rate of 7.16%. So again, 1 plus 0.0716 divided by 1, because again we are annual, to the 1 times, and this time we're looking at 10 years, 10-year period of time, and this is going to come out to be $4,991.91. So again, the calculations here for mutual funds are relatively basic. We're not going too deep into those, but it just gives you an idea of how these things grow. Mutual funds are usually a lot more safe than investing in individual stocks. And so it's just, again, another way to invest your money. So next we're going to look at one problem, and then the last video we'll be looking over how to use Microsoft Excel to do some calculations. But in this one, we want to find out who comes out ahead. And so we've got 2 saving plans. We want to compare the balance after a 10-year period. And we want to know which of the 2 strategies do you believe was better. And we're going to assume that the compounding and payment periods are the same for each pair. So we're trying to compare apples to apples here. So we have one deposits $400 per month in an account with an APR of 6%. So he's using a savings plan. So the amount for Juan is going to be $400. And then we have to times this by 1 plus our APR over, and he's doing it monthly, so over 12 months. And that's raised to the 12 power times 10, 12 times 10 power, I should say, because monthly payments for 10 years, and then subtract 1, and we're dividing all of this by our APR over the number of time or number of payments made per year. So this is going back again to the savings formula or annuities. And so when I multiply all this out over 10 years, Juan's investment of $400 every single month for 10 years, if he's making those deposits, his investment will be worth $65,551.74. Okay, so that's what he's going to be worth. Now, how much did Juan make in deposits? If we look at that, he made monthly deposits, so 12 deposits, $400 a piece for 10 years. If you multiply all that out, it's $48,000. So Juan invested $48,000 and made and came up with a value of $65,000 after 10 years. Okay, when we look at Maria, okay, the amount for Maria, she invests $5,000 at the end of each year in an account with an APR of 6.5%. So we do 5,000 times 1 plus 0.065 over 1, because she is investing once a year. So she makes 1 payment a year, again over 10 years. And then don't forget to subtract the 1, so that should be bracket parenthesis 1 plus, divided by 0.065 over 1. Again, she's only paying every year. So when we do out the numbers here, we get $67,472.11. And the deposits, so the amount of money that Maria actually deposited, she did 1 deposit per year, $5,000 on those deposits for 10 years, so $50,000. So now you can compare, how much each individual paid or made in interest, and